Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Wolf, and welcome back to another episode of LEGO Arts. So, in the last episode, we did a showcase on the Batbot from the Batman series. In this episode, we're taking a swing back into the Marvel universe by finally showcasing Marvel's Spider-Man 2. So, finally, as you can see here, we have 6 minifigs. We got Peter Parker and Miles, and we also got some of their iconic suits with the black suit, the anti-Venom suit, and my own rendition of the Evolve suit. And, of course, we got the big fig on Venom. And now this project has been something that I've been really excited for. I've been really excited to do this year, and had started working on it last year after playing the main game, but wanted to wait to finish up a couple of things. There was originally supposed to be one more Miles suit in this one, the Wakanda Forever suit, because I really like the design of it and wanted to make a minifigure of it. Unfortunately, that figure has to be pushed back a bit. Due to some technical difficulties. So later on when we finally get around to finally being able to do that figure, we'll do a separate showcase on that one. But for now, I figured that since we've finished up pretty much like the main suits and I guess like characters of the game, I figured we could go ahead and do a showcase on this one and finally showcase off these guys, which I've been really excited forward. I'm really proud of how each of these figures turn out. And yeah, this is going to be great. So, as you guys know the drill, we're going to take these minifigures one at a time, do review them, explain the process, why we're this route, and go from there. So without further ado, let's get the pedestal out and get the showcase on the road. To kick off our showcase, here we have Peter Parker in the Advanced Suit 2.0. I definitely like this suit a bit more than the last iteration in Spider-Man 1. The suit back then, it looked cool. It was really, really cool. And this one really takes all the elements that made that suit and double it up to make it look so much better. So the suit overall is a really cool design. And it's the base figure that I was actually using this time. I used an AV figures figure this time. As I originally thought about using like the Jin Customs figures that I got a while back and did a review video on that one. But one of the things that I worked on beforehand was the custom sculpted head, and I found that the head, bring this out, the head wasn't and just didn't look right on this figure. I'm not sure why, but I couldn't get the head to really work for this figure. So in the end, I decided to go ahead and use a different Spidey figure, and this one actually suits the head design much better. So the suit design, for those of you who don't know, I like doing the more 3D style headpieces for Spider-Man masks, and I really wanted to keep that up from this one. But this time I used a different approach than what I typically do. So this time I had used a custom head that was designed by Benson Bone, as he made a couple of Spidey heads with removable lenses, and that you can change up the expression, make them eyes narrow, make them wide. He so far has 2 versions of it. It's the one based off of the MCU and one based off of Miles and the Spider-Verse movies. I had used the ones based off of the MCU, as they provided enough of a length to where I could sculpt around with the mask and then come back in with the lenses, do some slight sanding, slight detailing on the connector pieces in the lens, and then stick them into the mask, and it turned out pretty good. The painting is probably one of my better tries when it comes to painting up with Spidey masks. They're still a bit tedious and can be a process after a while, but this one turned out so much better than some of the other adaptations I'd done. The overall basting with the rest of the figure, I kept it pretty much solid for AV figures. Like, they did an amazing job with all the custom printing. Like you can see, they did full articulation on the sides. Some printing on here. If we remove that, there lacks some printing on the sides of the legs, but since they're mostly covered up, that's okay. I did some modifications with the hand, as that originally this was supposed to be a singular piece that they would stick onto the hand. However, I wanted to include in these awesome like glove top web shooters that Input Break had made a while back. So I bought a bunch of them, and each of the Spidey figures have their own. So what I did was I carefully sanded off the backhand piece of like the gauntlet section, super glued it onto the back of the minifigure hand, and carefully made sure to stick it in for where like it wouldn't interfere with like the glove top, and the glove top fits perfectly. Like, I didn't have to do any modifications to the glove top, and you can see like a little bit of the web shooter detailing on there. There's no modifications that needed to be made. They're perfectly designed to where you can stick them onto the figure, and he can like move his arms and without fear of interference with it. And another nice little detail about what this figure that AV Figures did is that they included in these back pincers, just like you could get in the main game. in game. So you could stick them onto the back, and since they're done with magnetics, you don't have to remove the head and put these on. These can just like stick onto the back, just like the one with Jin Customs, and you have like some articulation with them. So you can like stick it out in like a cool pose, put it off here and there, and it looks really cool. I like the additional detail of it. It does add a little bit of extra weight to the figure, so definitely if you add on a little like support display stand for it. And one last bonus bit is that what came in with the minifigure figure is this custom styled head for Peter Parker. Overall, I like the facial expression. Like, I think it matches up pretty well with how Peter looks in the game. The hairpiece, however, it came in with like a standard Superman style hairpiece that they started using since Dawn of Justice, and it works more for the Spider-Man PS4, like Marvel Spider-Man 1 hairstyle. But this one, since it's a little bit, it's like slightly longer, slightly a bit messier, I decided to go ahead and use a different hairpiece. And unfortunately, I wanted to get one that was more accurate to how he was in the game, but this one was the closest that I could get, and it still works pretty well. Overall. I just did a couple of a quick repaint over it to try and make it as accurate as it is in the game, and it overall does match up very well with how he looks in the main game. So overall, this was a pretty fun figure to do. It was like one of the last ones that I did, and some other minor modifications that I did was I just painted on the red around with the torso and the legs, just to make it stand out a little bit more and make it blend in a bit more with the overall figure. Apart from that, this was still a pretty impressive figure, and even without the modifications, the figures that AV Figure made in general is very well done. And so next up on our list here, we have Miles Morales in his Advanced Suit 2.0. I definitely like this one, and this one much more than the other one. Similarly with Peter's Advanced Suits, I like how the design is roughly similar to how it was in the Miles Morales game, but steps it up with like more detailing and more of like an advanced overall look to it, and it looks really, really great. Really great. So the figure again was done by AV Figures, as they did a fantastic job at replicating the overall design of it. And it's the only modifications that I really made to the overall figure was just painted up the red to make it stand out a little bit more. The mask again is sculpted on by myself with the base template on Benson Bone's Spidey heads, and setting up the lenses a little bit to give it more the accurate look, and it looks pretty good. I especially liked painting on the sides of the reds. Like, I think this is really cool. I had originally thought about like painting all the way over like with the glove top as well, but I double checked and saw that like the arm just ends at a specific length, but which is still pretty good. This figure didn't come in with like the handguard glove top pieces, but I decided to include it in since Miles does have something similar like that in the game. So I took a couple of the extra pieces, sanded up the connector piece, painted them in red, and glued them onto the figure, and they look pretty good. Like, it does still keep it up a bit. And again, with the glove tops, like as you can see the web shooter glove top, no modification needed for it. It works perfectly, and articulation is very smooth. It's very crisp, and overall really, really good. And on the back, we continue on, like you can see like some more detailing and continuation on the light painting up on the red. It looks pretty good. And just like with Peter, this figure comes in with a secondary head as well. However, it did undergo some modifications that I did with this one. So as you can see, we have Miles unmasked. I think the facial expression is pretty good, and again, it matches up really nice. I do like the printed on hairstyle that he does have here, but there was some modifications that were made for this one. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. So the hairpiece on this one is actually done by Benson Bone, as part of the release to celebrate for Spider-Man 2. He included in like the custom styled hairpiece on Miles' hairstyle in the main game. AV Figures did come in with their own hairstyle for this one, but I felt that it didn't look really good. The way how it just looked onto the figure, it honestly looked bigger than the figure's head. So it's a cool approach, but I was definitely aiming for more screen accuracy on this one. So with some effort, I managed to remove the other hairpiece because it was super glued on, and painted up this hairpiece and stuck it onto this one instead. And it's definitely much more accurate more accurate, and really matches up more with the character. Not a lot of other customizations to go with, because it was pretty simple, pretty straightforward to get done. I think like the only difficult thing to really paint up was the spider, because it's much smaller than Peter's. So it was definitely a challenge to make sure on painting it up without damaging the overall design of the figure. And apart from that, this figure still turned out pretty good. And again, I had considered of using like this one, but again, a same situation. Like the head did not fit on with the figure. I don't know if it was because the lenses were too small or something, but I felt that it just didn't work out for this one. It just didn't work out for that one. With this one, however, it works very well, and still matches up with the adaptation of the game. And it was still a fun figure to try out. Next up on the list here we have is the black suit. Now, this was a figure I definitely had to make for this showcase, as I was super excited for the ever since like the first teaser we got on the black suit for the game, and it just looks really cool. This one is probably one of my favorite versions on the black suit, because I love the overall tactical look while having like a slight mutated look to it with like the roughened edges that it's got here and there, and it's just overall a really fun figure to check and to try out, and it was really fun to do. So with the overall look that I did with it, all the work was pretty much already finished, as the figure that I got from this, and this was from Brick Affliction, when they did one of their last releases from 2023. I managed to get this, as well as the Venom figure that we will show later on, and all the work was pretty much done. All I had to do was just paint it up in base black, go back in with the whites to do on the spider and the detailing. The stuff that I added in on my own were my own head style for the head, as I had already finished making on the head, and it turned out pretty good. So I was pretty satisfied with that. Although at the time, it was before we officially got with the game. We officially were able to get full releases of the game, so I had to look at screenshots of the trailers so many times. Pretty much how I approached with Kratos and Atreus for God of War Ragnarok. And pretty much what I did was I first sculpted on the overall base look of the suit. I then went back in with an exo knife, carved out some of the ingrained detailing on the back, and then took a roughened edge and just rolled it around on the back of the heads to give it that sort of rough alien look that it's got on some of these patches. And then of course he's equipped on with the input brick web shooters. One of them did break, so I had to carefully repair that, as well as stick it back on, and thankfully it works. And it overall is really, really good. I'll show you real quick, as I did keep the other head, and I did paint it up for fun. So this is the original head that came in with the figure from Brick Affliction. It's still pretty good. It's a pretty good head design. This did come in with a second symbiote figure, as well as an alternate head of the suits merging on. I can at least bring up with the head. This is the second head that comes in with the set. It looks pretty good. I might paint this up one day for something else. But until then, I'm just keeping it in storage for now. And with the other figure, it did come in with some tendril arms that I had originally done a little work on to try to do for a standing figure, as well as for a statue for pictures. However, I accidentally made the mistake of not painting up the suit before applying those on. So I unfortunately managed to done goof on that one. But that's all right. I'm still proud on how this figure turned out at the very least, and it was really, really cool. Only difficulty that I really had was, of course, applying on everything, and I did accidentally make the arms a little bit too loose, so they're not gonna fall off. However, that was a mistake on my end, as I was trying to make sure that I didn't break it like I accidentally did with a couple of other stuff. He's got some slight articulation, but not too much, but it's still okay. As just posing on with this figure is pretty good. And overall, again, this is probably one of my favorite adaptations for the black suit. The other symbiote suit that we see in the game, it's cool and it works for a story, as part of the story narrative, but honestly, I don't like it as much as the other one. I like this one a bit more, because again, with the tactical look to it, anyway, as well as it blends in pretty well on keeping up with Spider-Man's advanced tech, while also making it look like it's more powerful. powerful. The other suits, I like it as a narrative perspective of showing like Venom is taking over, and maybe I'll do that figure one day. But for now, this is the black suits that we got for Spider-Man 2, and I'm really happy with how this figure turned out. Next up on our list here, we have the Anti-Venom suit. And this one, I definitely wanted to make for the showcase, as I love the design that they went for. It's the gameplay behind it, and it is really, really cool. And it was just overall just a cool-looking suit that I felt like I had to try and make this minifigure. And definitely a figure that I've actually had to remake a couple of times. So a couple of things to clear out of the way first is that the body, this is actually done by a second version on Anti-Venom, as I had done my own version of Anti-Venom and Venom a while back. So you can see here, this was the original figure that I did, and I liked the overall design of it. But then Firestar Toys came out with their own version on Anti-Venom, and I just liked how it matches up more with the game. But I didn't want to destroy this figure, as I worked pretty hard on this one, so I just keep it as it was, And with this one, I purchased one of these figures from them, and just did a couple of modifications with them, mostly with paintwork. I just lightly painted it up on the sides to blend it in a little bit more and make it line up more on the back. I then painted it with the arms to make the decals stand up a bit more, and of course added in like the glove tops from Input Brick. And just to make sure that the paint would stay on, I not only lightly sanded the sides, but also sanded in the insides of the arms. So that way we can do some articulation, they can pose, and not interfere with any of the paintwork. So that turned out pretty good. A second thing that I did, and it was the modifications on the headpiece. If you kept up with Instagram, you might have seen that one of my posts that I did was I had done multiple versions of this head. Like, for the life of me, I was not satisfied with the overall head designs, specifically with the lenses. I kept struggling back and forth of trying to get the overall shape with them and make them like line up with the head, make it sure for like they're not too big but not quite too small, and just stand it out a bit more, So I'll show you that I done basically 3 versions on this suit. So here we have Mark 1, like the first iteration of the head. You can see that the lenses are ridiculously big and not really accurate at all. So that was the first one, and the head shape I wasn't too satisfied with. And the second one that we had on the other figure, it was all right. The head was a little bit better, but I felt like that it could have been done a little bit better. And finally, we have version 3. The lenses are a bit smaller, they're more centered in. I made sure to paint it up much more better with the black and white. To give overall with the idea of like his eyes are slightly narrowed, but not too narrowed. And finally, this was the final results. Even though that this is much better than the other versions, I probably would try again. To try and see if I could get it more accurate. But at the end of the day, I'm proud with it. But at the end of the day, I'm satisfied with the overall look. It's just like, okay, this is good. And now moving on to a little bit of the review with Firestar Toys' version of the suit. And the suit is very good. Like, comparison with the other suit that I did, like, I was aiming to try and make this accurate as I could. So I took, like, some pictures in-game and tried to make a decal that would work pretty well to have the spider fit onto the torso without making it, like, too big. It was definitely a process. With this one, I like it that they got the shape of it and even got it up to scale. It's so much better. And it looks a bit more clean, than the other one. And the printing of it is pretty solid as well. I like how the back of the spider is slightly different than on the front. You could kind of see specifically with the legs. On the back, it's a bit more wide out, and on the front, it's a little bit more narrowed down, I guess. Like, I don't know my words. But either way, it looks really cool. I like the printing on the sides of the legs. They're pretty nice. It doesn't have any printing like on the back of the legs and on the insides, but that's all right. Because it still works as a very cool figure. And it overall works pretty well. I'm curious to see like if we're gonna see the suit return in Spider-Man 3, since it seems that like Pete's gonna be sticking around with the suit for a while. If it doesn't, that's totally fine. But I like the design that they went for. I like the overall story approach that they went for the suit, and it was just a really cool figure to try and make. Next up on the list here, we have my own custom design suits based off of Miles' evolved suits that he gets at the end game. Now, I just want to say, with that suit, I don't hate it, as a lot of people have stated on the internet. I don't hate this suit. However, I do feel that with some slight details and some slight modifications to it, it could have looked so much better. Much better. So, with the overall design of it, I liked the approach for it, but definitely felt that some things could have been changed up a bit. So what I did for this one, is I first, like, sculpted on my own head on this one, and I even sculpted on my own little lenses for this one. I made sure to roughly shrink them down and keep them as small as I could, so that way they don't look gigantic on the figure. There was definitely some sanding and modifications that had to be done on it, and then until I finally managed to get, like, an appropriate look for it, which looks pretty good. I then decided to do, like, the webbing on the detailing, because I feel like that's such a key trait for Spider-Man. And Spider-Man is the webbing and the detailing, so I did, like, a full webbing all the way around with the mask and included it on to the rest of the figure. The hood piece is a slightly modified official Lego hood piece with some slight details, and even filled it in with a little bit of clay, as I removed enough of it that it damaged the hood completely. But I managed to salvage it enough to make it work for the suit. With the overall figure for it, I like the idea of it. But definitely felt that, like, some changes could have been done with it. So I kept up with the webbing that I continued on with the sides. With the emblem is especially a key thing that I think was pretty cool, but definitely could have been a little bit better. I kept it up with the overall idea that the spider expands around and goes on the arms and even continues on with the legs. So what I did was, after painting up with the arms, move this up, I painted up where, like, the bottom legs on the spider would move in and would, like, move it around, that not only would they connect on the back, but also connects to the sides of the legs and go down. This was definitely something that I felt could have been so much better, as looking at it from the actual game, it looks slightly off, and it kind of messes up a little bit with me for, like, my OCD standards of, like, it's not fully complete, it should have looked better. So this was definitely something that I attempted on for my own, and it looks much better. And the idea of it is that, like, it's supposed to be with the 8 legs, and how with each of the legs, they, like, stretched out, and connect with each other, which I think is pretty cool. But again, definitely on making it more seamless and more complete would have been better. With the arms, like, I painted them up, with, like, first base red, and then I added in the blue, but I wanted to try this thing, and I know there's not a paint that can pull this off, but one idea that I had was I wanted it to be like, on one side it would look like blue, but then on the other side it would turn orange, because I like the idea that, like, these lines are, like, coursing through with, like, bioelectricity for the Venom, and I think it would have been a cool idea for have it for, like, whatever kind of Venom Miles is using, the sides of the emblem would, like, change color to, like, either blue or orange. I know there isn't a paint that could have done that, so definitely doing, like, some Photoshop stuff that would be required. But I love the idea, and I think that would have looked so cool, tracing onto the character. And finally, with some minor adjustments on with the legs that I painted on, like, these little, like knee pads on there, and I painted on the outlines for the boots, and again, continued on with the webbing. I continued on with the back, and painted up with the hood's webbing a little bit, and I think, like, an alternative that I would have done is, like, maybe sculpt up the hood for where, like, it would, like, go over the head, but I think that would have looked a bit too bulky, so I went ahead and didn't do that. But overall, I like this approach for it. Again, I don't hate like, the base game's Evolve suit. I think it would have looked pretty cool, but just with a couple of modifications, even the smallest changes to it, would have made the suit look so much better. So I'm really happy with like, my own interpretation of it, that, again, it keeps up with like, the overall idea on the Evolve suit, but tweaks it up a little bit to make it look like something more accurate to kind of like what Spider-Man would have worn in general, and it just makes it look cooler and a bit more simple. And last but certainly not least on our list, here we have our Big Fig Venom. This was definitely a character I was super excited to do for this showcase, and my third attempt on making Venom in general. And this is probably my favorite version because of the work that I went into for doing this one. So as I said before, this one, the overall figure was done by Brick Affliction, and they had pretty much done all the work for this figure. I love the detailing that they put into this, like the light little veins, the the overall detailing on the spider logo. The head molds are really cool. And cool, but there were definitely some stuff that I had to approach on for my own. So when I got the figure, if you go on, and when you go on their list and go on their store page and you check out on this figure, you'll find in the description that they said that this is primarily used for like display only. Only that the idea is that you just glue on all the pieces. That when you order this thing, it comes in with a little pack of super glue. So you like glue on the arms, hands, and just pick a head and stick it on with this one. But when I got this figure, I saw that there are actually some areas that it looked like there were some connector pieces. So I reached out to him and asked him about it, and he said that this figure was supposed to be articulated just like with a Lego official Big Fig. However, he kept having difficulties with the connector pieces that would either like snap off or come out as misprints. So in the end, he decided to have this as more of a display figure, which makes sense. It makes sense. I still wanted articulation with this, however, so I basically just took a little bit of a gamble and experimented on with a couple of Dremel tool attachments that I had gotten. And so what I did was to keep up with the figure, so that way he has articulation. I drilled down with the arms and put it in like 5x3 micromagnets in each of the sockets. Some of them were a little bit easy to do with like the insides on like the arms, just with some slight modifications and with that. But some other stuff like at the hands, I had to take a drill attachment, drill in holes in each of the hands and the arms, and definitely had to do some modifications on with the head itself. Like you could see here there's a little bit of areas of like where clay was, and you can see same thing on top of here. I had to add in with some clay. It took like a good like half a day to get all this done, as I was trying to make sure not to damage the overall design of the head, while making sure that there was enough room to stick in the magnets, and that way they would connect pretty easily on here. After a lot of trial and error that went into it, I miraculously managed to keep everything from falling apart, and everything turned out pretty good. So as you can see with stick on here with the head, it comes in with a couple of other heads as well. As like we got this other head with the tongue going the other way, and some different eyes on this one, and then another one where the teeth are closed, and same thing with the eyes from the other head. I kind of wish that they were all on the same kind of eyes, like based off of the game, or at least like looked at the same. But that's okay. It's okay because it still looks pretty cool. And yeah, like I said, that since the overall work was really much put into it, so all I really had to do was like add in the magnets, make some attachments to it, and then afterwards just give it the overall painted look to it, and it turned out really awesome. Really awesome. This was a really cool Big Fig, and probably my favorite version of Venom that I've done so far. As again, this one took a bit more creativity to make it work. I love the 3D printing. Like all the work that Brick Affliction really put into this, it looks really cool. And with the workarounds that I added on into it, it really, again, overall completes the figure, and it just looks really cool. I think the only other modifications that I could have done with it was maybe find some sort of way to like add it on with the wings that he gets at the end of the game, because they just look so cool. But I think that would have required to really like mess up the detailing on the back, and I really didn't want to damage the spider. So I had to make sure that was okay. And I think like only other complaint really would be like with the legs. I unfortunately can't stick them onto a display stand. Like I am keeping this thing I'm moving this thing as carefully as I can, because he can't fully attach onto official Lego pieces. But apart from that, it still looks pretty cool. Very cool. And whether it's like with the modifications with the magnets or not, even if this wound up being a statue figure, I love the detailing that went into it. And with Venom overall like in the game, even though he had very little appearances in Spider-Man 2, his appearances that he did make in were big enough that this is a really cool version of Venom, and I hope we get to see more versions like this in the future. Okay, overall, that's going to do it for this episode of LEGO Arts. I hope you guys enjoyed this showcase. This was a fun project to do. Like, I love how each of these spiders came out. They were so cool to customize. And even though there was some trial and error with a couple of these figures here and there, overall, I'm really happy with how each of these turned out, and they were so much fun to do. going to do. As I stated before at the start of the showcase, like, there was originally going to be another Miles suit in the showcase, the Wakanda Forever suit, but that one has been pushed back for a bit. So when that figure finally gets finished, we're going to do a solo showcase on that one. As I also mentioned beforehand, I don't know if I'll do like the symbiote based suit in the game, from the game. And again, like, as I stated before, I prefer this black suit more, but that would be an interesting approach to try out in the future. So that one would be mostly on a maybe. And in terms of some other Spider-Man related projects, I'm also working on the Spider-Verse style showcase. I got a majority of the figures done, but there are still a few more to get started on. So I'm working on with that. That's some other projects I have in the works. Is I am going to be doing a new updated version on Blue Team from Halo, so I've been working on those figures, and I've also been taking a couple of my old Justice League figures, some of which I haven't shown on the channel, and just going back through and giving them like a new makeover, not from any particular adaptations, just mostly like just some fun designs, and see where that goes. So that'll be off in the future, and yeah, that for now is gonna be it. Oh, and also, I keep stating it, with the Dino Thunder minifigures, they are basically pretty much finished. I have not gotten word on the glove tops that I had gotten for them. I honestly have no idea where the hell they are at this point. So I'm working on a temporary workaround for them, and that I will hopefully get done soon. So hopefully I'll be able to record that soon. But apart from that, those figures are basically done, and they'll be ready to be they'll be ready for a showcase in the near future. And for now, that's gonna be it. I'm gonna get back to work on some of those projects, as well as also continue on for Let's Plays. I'm continuing playing on for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I have no idea how much more of that game I'm gonna be playing, but hopefully I'm reaching at least halfway through with the game. Who knows? But that's also gonna be a showcase in the future with some more FF7 figures. I'm also playing a little bit of Spider-Man 2 New Game Plus. And yeah, for now, that's gonna be it. So, if you guys want to see more videos like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification. It helps us, like buttons, and maybe share it with some fun. Oh, and before I forget, to all the customizers that I mentioned Benson Bone, Input Brick, Brick Affliction, all those guys, I'll include links to them in the description below. Go check them out. They do fantastic work, make amazing parts for custom figures. And yeah, that's gonna be it. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, hit that like button, come over to which you think, straight to your friends, subscribe to the video, follow me on Twitch. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time in the next video. Goodbye!